So we're now early March into season one of Crop Culture Farm. Wanted to do a little quick scoring to gauge some sort of metric in terms of where you're at. So just give me your initial gut. These will be 1 to 10. I'll define it so you have some idea of where we're at. But where would you say you're at with burnout level? One being high, I'm really burned out. 10 being it's low, it's basically vacation.
Uh, I'd say right now, if we're taking a snapshot of like just life in general with the farm, I'd say probably around a 4. Like definitely feeling the drudge um of life. Like we just got like fully moved in, like everything out of the old house, everything's done, and doing all that. And so now that that's behind me, I'm feeling like the things that got piled up in the um, kind of getting put off to the back burner is now like coming full forward, and so trying to sort of tackle those things and playing keep up is definitely feeling a little bit. Yeah, so I wouldn't say I'm like creeping toward the burn. I mean, I guess you know you're either working actively taking steps to go against it or you're creeping toward it from my experience. But I wouldn't say I'm like actively really pushing toward burnout, but definitely feeling more of the importance of like, all right, so I need to take today and be with family. I need to take care of myself. Um, and, and yeah, all this past week, that sort of reprioritizing our life in the new house on the farm as we're like pretty much in spring, more or less at this point. Um, it's definitely becoming a lot more real.
I think it's important, I mean, that you brought up the whole if I include life point because it's definitely critical for single person operations. It's
Yeah,
it's hard to contain life in its own little bubble and have a business be in its own other bubble where you can easily just segregate them and not let the stress of regular life bleed over into the business. Because if you're burned out from moving and setting up a new house, like that just drains your energy and mental bandwidth. So when you go on the farm, you might be loving the farm and want to do stuff, but you're so burned out before that that it just makes it tough. It's like you let's say you lift weights and you run. Well, if you run a marathon in the morning, you might really want to lift weights in the afternoon, but you don't have the gas to go. So I get it.
yeah.
All right. A 4 for that. What about excitement level of running your own farm and taking this project on? One would be high, like that's essentially the genesis of the idea. I'm going to do this. I'm starting excitement super high. We're calling that a 1 and excitement level of sorry, 1 would be low and
Okay,
10 would be high.
gotcha. Yeah, I'm going to say right now, um, I'm feeling as far as like business overall, I'm giving an 8. Kind of with life sort of settling down, I'm able to like refocus back on the business after sort of taking a couple of weeks going slow. Um, And so, yeah, just really feeling a lot of excitement. We're getting really close to the beginning of farmers market season, and I'm starting to see a lot of things, like seeds that were started that, maybe a couple, I don't know, month and a half ago, 2 months ago would have taken like significantly longer to germ, and now stuff's popping up, and transplants are they're starting to like everything's starting to ramp up as the days get longer and it starts to get a little warmer. And so, yeah, I'm feeling pretty excited. Um, definitely having to contend a little bit with just the reality of may not be as ready come 1st of April for the market as I hoped I would be. So that probably is what's like knocking it back a couple of points from just like a pure 10, like, oh my God, this is amazing. We're going for it. Everything is going to go off without a hitch, which I'd say is probably my default setting. Um, you know, and tend to be pretty optimistic, tend to be idealistic going into stuff. So yeah, realistically, yeah, probably we'll say we'll say 7, 8. We'll
Okay.
go there.
What about overall satisfaction with how the business is progressing? So you had expectations of where you wanted to be. There's reality of what you're actually seeing. So the satisfaction that one being low, 10 being high.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a little lower. I'll go right up the middle with a 5 on that one. Uh, you know, just having a hard time with timing stuff, timing crops, things uh things being ready sooner than they were anticipated, or things not being ready before they were anticipated. Um, and just we're starting to see like the first influx of pests, and then also sales sort of the little bit of sales I was doing sort of slumping over the last couple of weeks, and feeling the or the pressing need to really to hit some more of the administrative stuff. I'd say that's probably the main thing that I've put off, has been a lot of the admin, like even behind on like, tracking my miles. Like if I look at my phone, it's like how many drives have I not logged in the like 57 in the last like month and a half. So it's like as far as the admin business side, that stuff's starting to sort of lag behind, as I'm just sort of trying to use any free time that I've had to devote to things like, harvest and packing, or seeding and transplanting.
Yeah, and that's actually what I want to talk to you about next episode is farm office work. Um,
Gotcha.
because of when you do a business, I see it's two sides. There's what you do in the office and there's what you do in the field, whether that's, me running or some sort of retail thing or literally in the field as a farmer. There's two different sides. And if you don't touch both of them, you're in trouble. It's like if you had twins, right? You can't just feed one
Yeah.
of them, ignore the other. The other one's gonna go away pretty quick. All right, so of all those, I tried to set it up so the most perfect optimum score would be a 30. You're at a 17. So you're above
Yeah.
average,
Woo.
but room for improvement on there.
Yeah.
When you look at what you're doing, I mean, just hearing you go through this, it's not as easy as the books might say it is, huh?
Oh, hell no.
Because it seems like you can know what to do. That's
Hmm.
one thing. It's like the old G.I. Joe, knowing's half the battle. Well, that's fine. But the other part is execution. And execution is, you can probably chop that pie up into a few pieces. To execute, you need the appropriate level of time to execute,
Hmm.
the appropriate level of experience. So it's one thing I might know how to do it, or I know what I should do, but if I haven't done it before, actually doing it might prove to be pretty tough. You have to have the right equipment to actually do it. And then you have to be really in the right mental space to like make all that blend together where it's like, I'm focused now, I can put this in. And it seems like it's just one of those things when you're doing something like this on the side, it's hard to get perfect alignment across the board for everything to work out when
Oh
you
yeah.
are, literally in life stretched a few different ways.
Hmm.
For, if I said, hey, you could take the next month off from your crystal organic job and just work on your farm, would that be a blessing, a curse, or somewhere in between? Assuming you got paid. Like
Yeah. Oh
leaving.
no, that'd be a huge blessing. I was actually thinking about that earlier today of like, man, even if I could, I might just carve a day out and just be like, listen, like I need a day to catch up, um, a couple of days, hoping that the rain holds off. Because isn't that always how it works off? You take a day off and you're like, oh, great, I'm going to get all this farm work done, and then it rains, and it's like I can't do half the stuff I need to do.
Yeah,
But
or a
no, I
car
mean,
breaks down or kid gets sick or something else, right?
yeah, no, I would just about kill for a free month to get especially this month, because it feels like this is like this is go time. Like we're getting ready to do that. Like need to get as much stuff in the ground, have as many beds ready to go as we can. So yeah, I would do just about anything I could to take a month off. So if anybody wants to cash at me, so I can take time off, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll put your Venmo in the show notes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of those things like I face this too with a lot of stuff where I'll find myself getting terribly overwhelmed sometimes. And some of it's in my head, some of it is reality. Like I think I got to do all this stuff and I think it's all of equal importance and urgency, which I think are different. I think something being important and urgent are different. And you know, I try and sit down and have to eventually just triage and say what is important, what's urgent, what am I focused on, and most importantly, like what am I not focusing on?
Hmm.
And that means putting off plans and stuff like that. Are you, I don't know what your prioritization or task management strategy is, but are you in the vicinity of having to modify some 2024 plans to say, all right, this is the bandwidth I've realized I actually have, and I maybe wanted to do, something else. So it's like I have a container that holds a liter of water. That's how much time I have, but I have 5 liters of water that I want to put in the container. Well, 4 of those liters we just got to get rid of because they won't fit. Are you in that range where plans have to start being altered, or is it a matter of just really grinding to catch up?
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can just grind it out for a couple weeks and kind of get back where we're and I'm probably being a little pessimistic. I'm not really that far behind. Like what's in the ground for beginning of April, it's like it's in the ground and it is what it is. Probably won't, highly doubt I'll even have enough to sell at market to reach that $1,000 a week that we were trying to shoot for. I'll get close. Um, and so we're not too far behind, but I'm more thinking now, I'm having to be like 2, 3 months ahead, and so I'm hoping that just a couple of weeks of grinding it out, like reminding myself, like, all right, like it's only the 5th. Like it feels like it's the end of March, and it's like, oh no, March just started. Like we just ended February, and you actually had an extra day February. So, um, hoping I can just kind of put my head down and just be really, really good with my time, and try to squeeze every little bit of productivity out of that. Really honing in on like, all right, here's the task for today. Because a lot of days it's kind of like, all right, let's walk over to the farm, let's see what needs to be done. Like, all right, so there's 5 or 6 things, like let's sort of just mull through in our head. And this all happens in like a minute and a half as soon as you get there in the morning or whatever, or after work. But it might be like, all right, I need to go ahead and have my priority tasks hammered out for tomorrow, so I don't have to think about it. So I can go and, you know what, maybe I'm going to get up early and go knock out 2 of those tasks in the morning before I head to Crystal Organic, because I can do that now. And so I'm hoping with just a little bit more of intentionality and discipline, we'll be able to sort of, quote unquote, catch back up. But um, but definitely like holding everything in an open hand and realizing like, yeah, like we might need to hold off on the in town CSA pickup for right now. Like trying to get that launched in the next 2 weeks so that we can have that going. Like really have that humming around the same time that the market starts. It's like, all right, I might need to hold off, maybe till summertime, or maybe we just need to wait and we just focus on farmers market and that is it. And, because if we can hit our numbers there, we can slowly build to that sort of thing. So nothing's too sacred. Everything's on the chopping block. Um, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to just grind it out for a couple of weeks and get back at our steady pace.
Have there been any significant chops so far? where it was the plan was this, and you just decided, hey, for sanity or time or whatever, it just wasn't a good idea to start with stuff that you've just chopped off?
Nothing really yet. If anything, I've probably added stuff. Like maybe I was coming in a little too lean, like, oh, I just want to really specialize. And, it's like, could I grow that? It's like, yeah, but like things like snap peas or whatever. Like I had zero interest in doing any of that. And then after talking with Nicholas, he's like, dude, people freaking love snap peas. And then, meeting with the market manager, and they're like, man, the one thing we really wish we had more of that people grew was snap peas. And it's like, all right, well then I have to freaking do snap peas. I didn't want to have to be out there every other day picking it. And so if anything, I've probably added a little bit more to my plate, but maybe it'll be more, instead of adding, it'll be like, all right, so let's not focus as much on, X. And, if we dial that back 50% and then we add in the snap peas, it takes me, you know, 20, 30 minutes to pick all that, just sort of maneuver things around. So, but nothing's been chopped quite yet. I think when we check back in middle of April, when things are really humming, then I think that's when the blade's going to start to fly and things might have to get chopped. So we'll see.
Yeah, I see that now. I mean, it's the struggle of entrepreneurs. The greatest thing about somebody's entrepreneurial is their ambition
Hmm.
to solve problems, take on challenges, do stuff. I don't want to say this for everybody, but a lot of entrepreneurs like myself too, it's also we love shiny objects along the way. Like,
Hmm.
wow, it'd be awesome if we did this too. Or
Yeah.
we could add on this thing. And it's real, it's like so easy, low lift to commit to an idea.
Yeah.
It's like you asked me to do the podcast, and I'm like, sure. Like saying yes to do it is like sure. But then actually the work that goes in on the back end is like that's the rest of the iceberg. We got to
Yeah.
record them, we got to plan them, I got to edit them, I got to publish them, do all that stuff. So this isn't the case with this example, but you can say yes to something and then you get into that, like, oh, we're gonna add a second market. And then 5 Saturdays in, you're like, why did we add that second market?
Yeah.
And now, we're totally locked in. Like I've wanted to start doing YouTube stuff for like the last year. And it's just been, I've had to force myself to be like, don't you dare start it now. Like it's not
Yeah.
ready, too much on the burner. Like you're
Hmm.
just going to overload, you burn out. And I think I've been there in the past where you burn out and you go past that mental point of return. And
Hmm.
I think that's when, it all hits the fan and you just can't come
Yeah.
back. You start hating everything and you start, I like it. Maybe everybody reacts differently. I get snappy, I start kind of shutting down, isolating myself, which means a crappy family life. Nobody likes
Hmm.
that. So it's just hard, like managing business and life, especially at the startup phase where you're at or some sort of major expansion phase is just so tough. Do you feel that either the stress, um, the physical toll, or the time commitment put stress on family life for you?
Um, I'd say the time commitment more than anything, because it's like we can be like I can be super idealistic about um, not just time management. Because I think like with a lot of entrepreneurial things, like if it's something that you really believe in, yeah, like you'll give your life to it. Every waking moment you will. And thankfully I have an amazing partner. I have an amazing wife who can kind of like check me on that sort of stuff. Like even like last night, like get home, did stuff at the farm, got some stuff accomplished needed to get done, and then it was like, and then some other life things, sort of like extracurricular stuff, sort of came up that I needed to tackle that was sort of time sensitive, and it's like, hey, you haven't seen your kids all day. Like me and the kids left at 6:45 this morning to go to your mom's house to get them ready to go to school, and it's like, and it's 8 o'clock, and you haven't spent any time with them, and it's like, oh man, yeah. So, um, and then Sunday, it's like, all right, well, let's all go to the farm. All four of us, let's go over there. The kids can play. Sarah, you and I can knock a couple things out. and pretty quickly it's like the kids just really don't want to do it today. They'd rather just kind of play in their room. And frankly, Sarah's got a lot running through her head. And so it's like, you know what? Maybe you and the kids going back to the house and just let me focus. It will actually be more productive as opposed to, doing that. And um, so it definitely takes a bit of a toll on, you just have to kind of know when you're willing to sacrifice that time as opposed to like, you know what? No, right now this is a non-negotiable. And it's not like there's a block, like, all right, I have to devote an hour to my kids. Like some days it's like they're cool to play and do their own thing, and I can get a bunch of stuff done. And other times it's like, no, I need to be a dad right now. And then on the physical side, I wouldn't say like an overall, I've definitely been nursing a little bit of a knee injury, probably more from my crystal work than my own personal stuff, just in the sheer amount of time that I'm doing it. But so that slowed me down a little bit and kind of kept me inside on a Sunday when I would have much rather been out there like kicking butt. But yeah, and so it's like so even those sort of things where it's like, all right, this is a whole new journey of like I need to be thinking a little bit more long term with my personal longevity and make sure, like sipping some bone broth right now to help give some ligaments some good nutrients to sort of heal. So it's definitely it's all becoming super real now in the time commitment in the new place, with the new schedules and sort of what is the reality of pulling 12-hour days 6 days a week look like.
How would you, let me back up. For somebody listening to this who's dreamed about having their own farm and they don't now. They're working some office job or whatever. Like, oh, I just want a farm. Can you give a realistic perspective of the vision versus the reality of that vision? So in other words,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be like this. And then you do it and it's like this, but like in the most real way, because I think there's good and bad. I don't want to sugarcoat it. I don't want to drag it one way, but your own take on that vision versus reality.
Yeah, I would say, um you know I'd say the reality of it is like go slower than you think you need. If you think you can get the farm built out in 6 months, like give yourself a year, because reality is you probably need like 2 years. And so yeah, it's like just whatever sort of predetermined variables or metrics that you have, whether it's like your budget or your weekly or monthly time commitment or your projected sales or the amount of land that you think you can have, like everything that you have, like give yourself grace, give yourself more wiggle room, you know, a lot longer amounts of time that it's going to take, you know, it's probably going to cost you more money. Um, because I tried to do a lot of upfront work to really nail down like this is what my schedule is going to look like and it's going to be perfect. And it's like, yeah, and if it's a nice day and you're feeling good and you had a good night's sleep and then you're planning from the future on that day, it's like, yeah, like, oh, man, it's going to be great because you're like taking your own current feelings and projecting it into the future as opposed to like if I'm worn out and my knee hurts and the kids are being crazy, like that's probably a better day to plan your future because you may be a little bit more optimistic or realistic about the future. But yeah, I would just say like cut yourself some slack. You don't have to prove it to anybody. Like 2024 doesn't have to be the year to do it. Like no one is expecting you to do it now. No one is expecting you to do it next year. No one's expecting you to do it for 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand. Just, have your dreams, have your ideals, and then just let those be sort of mile markers and jumping off points as opposed to like hard numbers. Like I have to hit this number or this was not a success. Because for me, that's what a lot of it is. It's like it's the little wins that keep me going. And, and if you stack up enough little losses, it really just takes the wind out of your sails. And so by um, making those wins as easy as possible, by giving yourself a much bigger, window to hit that mark, I think it just sort of keeps that forward momentum instead of just like, oh man, I just got like we just totally went over budget, or I'm 6 months behind for some new business that, you know, it's like just cut yourself some slack, man. It's like if this is something you're really passionate about and you really care about, like you will make it happen one way or another. You'll well, let me say this. You'll either discover that this is really not what you hoped it would be, which I've been that way with other businesses. It's like this was not as idealistic as I thought it was going to be, which is also a phenomenal thing to discover. Like that can also be extremely freeing too. If you've been dreaming about farming for years and then you're like, maybe this isn't for me, like great, let's put that on the chopping block and move on to the next dream. Or if it really is truly something that like you eat, sleep, and breathe, and it's like one way or another, whether it's this year, next year, a decade from now, like you'll make it happen. So just um, take the next step in front of the first one and just kind of keep chugging along. You don't have to grind, you don't have to be the most productive, or you don't have to look like X, Y, or Z. Just, you know, try to be a little bit better today than you were yesterday.
That's well said. You've ran several businesses in the past that you've started. You just said some weren't for me. What, how do you identify between realizing it's not for you and realizing it's hard or progress is slow? Because I think maybe there's that line is a little fuzzy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think probably for a person like me, that it's even more blurred because, like I said, any business is going to hit those, roadblocks, speed bumps, whatever, whatever. And if you hit enough of them in a row, it can be like, man, do I even need to be doing this? Um, and so I can't speak for everybody, and it's not going to be the most like eloquent, well thought out answer. But for me, the truth of the matter is it's like when I was running kind of the finished carpentry and painting business, like had the potential to make really good money. I was really good at it, and I had connections. Like I wasn't just starting out, completely green out of the blue. Um, it's like, but when I thought about it, one, I usually had to make myself think about it. Like I like you just got to devote some time and you got to focus on, on the business. Or if I did think about it, like in the middle of the night, it was usually like in a sweat, like, oh my God, I'm not going to get that job done tomorrow, and I've got another job starting. And so as opposed to with this, it's like I dream about it, I think about it, I talk about it, not even just like here. It's like anybody that knows me, anybody that hears me, it's like, how's life going? Well, what you doing? What's something new that's going on? And it's like my whole world is my family and the farm, and those kind of are steadily becoming one. Um, and so for me, I would say knowing that it's not for you versus it's hard is with those other jobs, hard days really made me want to quit. A lot of tearful drives home from jobs, like literally crying, like I can't do this anymore. I just worked for 16 hours and didn't make $1 because I, misquoted the job or whatever. As opposed to with this, it's like the hard days kind of makes me like bite down a little bit harder and dig my heels in a little deeper and say like, by God, we're going to make this work one way or another. So it's not some beautiful metric, but yeah, I was just say it's like, how do you feel on the hard days? Does it make you want to dig in more, or does it make you want to hang up the towel and go home? And it can, and you have enough of those bad days that you'll really truly be able to get to see, how committed are you to this, or is it just a quick like trying to make a buck, and you saw a niche and you're trying to exploit it like any good entrepreneur would, Or is this like, man, I live for this, and like I think I can do this for a long, long, long time and be happy at it.
It sounds like this is true. You tell me if it's true. Like, do you still get a lot of juice out of pursuing your own venture?
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, it stokes you. Like, you love the idea. Like, it's a badge of honor. It's like some pride. It gives you energy. Like, hey, I'm doing this. I'm making it a reality.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. When and in all aspects of it, it's like how much of this can we do on our own and and not have to rely on some other company or service or whatever. And so it's like this self-sufficiency thing that really just gets you amped up sometimes.
I think liking your job or whatever you do, for a lot of, I mean, you own a job right now, right? And in a lot of ways, I do too. Because you own a business, I think if you can walk away and it stays functioning for more than a few days.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not there, you're not there. So like we own jobs. And one thing I've been thinking a lot about lately is it kind of goes back to one of the early questions I asked you on of, what's your excitement level? I was trying to think like I've had projects I've done in the past, whether that's something out in the yard, around the house, a business where you're stoked like the night before, like you're thinking about
Yeah.
it in bed,
Oh yeah.
waiting to get up for it. And I was like, damn, like I haven't had that in a business sense in a long time. And I've been doing paper pot since 2017. So, I mean, I'm 7 years into it. I'm not totally surprised on that. And I started to think, all right, what do I do every day that I love, or maybe a better way to say, what do I do every day that makes me happy? Like I love doing this thing. And I started looking at a lot of the tasks that I do, and I'm like, this is all stuff I have to do. And there's really nothing on there that I absolutely hate. And I do get some satisfaction out of doing things, but there's nothing on there that I could put in the category of it's a present for me every day. Like this is a gift I give myself every day. I get to do this. So, I mean, this is just this last weekend I was thinking about this of how can I start to do something where every day I find something that moves the business forward where the business needs to go, but it brings like true joy
Hmm.
to where I'm at. Because I've fallen a lot, I think, in the trap that probably a lot of people fall into of doing the stuff that has to be done and losing some of that joy along the way. And I don't want to sound too pessimistic either. Like it's not like I'm sitting here hating what I do or any of that. Like I'm grateful, thankful for the position I'm in. But if you choose this lifestyle and you choose to go down this path, it should be a happy path.
Hmm.
And a lot of us start there. And after a while, whether the shine gets ground off or the pretty ribbons all frayed at this point because we've just been in the wild so long, you lose some of that. So that's something I'm trying to claw back. So don't any of that joy you have at this stage, always try and find a way to hold on to it.
Yeah. And I'll say one sort of like anecdotal thing along the lines of that too. It's like, and if there's things that maybe used to bring you joy that no longer do, and I've talked about this a lot, but it's like having your cheerleading squad. And I don't know what that looks for everybody, but I don't remember what day it was. I was at the farm and I like someone randomly like pulled up and like we're out in the middle of nowhere. Like I don't have friends that are like I just happen to be in the neighborhood. Like whatever. And someone just pulled up and I'm like, what the heck are you doing here? And they're like, oh, well, we actually did happen to just be in the neighborhood. And my wife hadn't seen the farm. And so I wanted to bring her by to just see it, and it was a rough day. And I literally, as I'm like walking across the farm to meet them at the gate, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, damn, like I should be further along than I am. And it was just like, nothing but like negativity, negativity. Um, what's wrong with you? Why haven't you done this? And so, and like, because that's where my mind was at, like, that's what came out. They're like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just sitting here thinking, like, just brutally honest, like, just thinking about how much further along I should be. And they're like, and they like immediately stopped and they're like, no, like, they would not let me think that way. They're like, um, considering where you were 4 months ago, 3 months ago, you just moved, and they like rattled off this list of all of these accomplishments that I've done. And they're like, and we think that what you've done looks amazing. And it was like, oh, yeah, actually, this is pretty good. And so, like, sometimes, especially if you're doing it solo, and like I'm out there most days, like solo by myself, no one else is around. Yeah, it can be really easy to get super discouraged. And then the things that used to find you joy, like, you know, going to transplant stuff, I'm like, "God, I really don't want to do that, or whatever." And then it's like, but having those people in your corner that can be like, no, like I know it may seem, it's not as shiny anymore, but to us it still looks great. So just keep going. And it's like that can be that re-energizing that you need to just like give you that extra bump to keep going the next mile.
It's amazing point. And anybody in life, I think, can use that. Like,
Yeah.
we are, I don't know if it's a modern thing. I don't know if it's a male thing. I think we're too hard on ourselves for giving ourselves credit for progress that we make. I'm sure if
Hmm.
you, anybody listening to this, if it's March 5th, so we're 60 something days into the 2024. And some people, assuming you're farming and you're not in some freezing state where you're taking the whole winter off, you might feel like I'm behind, I haven't done enough. But I would bet if you listed out everything you've actually done or watched the fictitious replay, you've done an amazing amount. Yet we don't
Hmm.
give ourselves credit for the stuff we've done, and we focus on the stuff that we haven't done,
Exactly.
or the stuff we don't need to even do. Like that's the other thing is like like I'll beat myself up about something that I probably shouldn't even be doing, and I haven't done it.
Hmm.
And it's like, dude, focus on what you've done.
Yeah.
What would you say to this for somebody who wants to start farming? This statement, it's harder than you'll expect it to be.
Yeah. I mean, without some context, I would say physically, like this is exactly par for the course. And if anything, it's probably a little less strenuous just because everything's on a smaller scale. Um, so in some ways, physically, it's been less demanding. It's been more of just the time of like, it's a 12-hour day instead of an 8-hour day. Um, but I would say in every other aspect of hard, whether it's like just the kind of carrying everything emotionally, mentally, time, finances, um, yeah, like it's definitely it's hard, especially mentally. I'd say that was the one thing that like carrying the mental load of like I'm laying in bed at night and the wind is howling. And before I'd sleep like a baby. I never would once think like I hope Crystal Organics high tunnels are okay. Just because I don't have to. And then now all of a sudden it's like the wind's howling. I'm like, I really hope the seed house is still there. And it's like maybe I need to put my boots on and just walk out in the rain with a flashlight and just check because I can't sleep. And so in that aspect, um, mentally for sure is the one biggest sort of challenge that is definitely been far more than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I've often ran the mental exercise with myself of what would my life look like just from a stress and free time standpoint if I had a job.
Hmm.
Assuming I liked the job and I was into the job and it wasn't something I hated and I enjoyed it. But you think about that as an entrepreneur, when you grind and you do all this, you could trade this for a job that you show up, you get a paycheck for, and let's assume you like it and love it and it gives you fulfillment, all those things. But I think it's fair to say most people in most jobs, whenever they clock out, they clock out. Like you said,
Yeah.
you don't worry about the high tunnel. You don't worry about whatever's happening with the business or any of that stuff. You go home and do what you want to do. And I think that's why football is so popular, right? In the US, it's
Yeah,
people on Sundays can just sit and chill for the whole day because they have nothing else to worry about.
man.
And it's like, man, I wish I could just sit on the
Yeah.
couch for 6 hours. And same thing on Saturday if I was into college football.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds yeah, I think the part, and because we've kind of played this thought experiment before, it's like, but at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know, there's just something about trading hours for wages, like trading time for wages that just like feels like I'm selling myself short. And I can't quantify it. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to try to psychoanalyze myself on that right now, but it's like there's just something about just punching a clock and doing that it's like, and not even just like I'm better than this, or this is a waste of all of my potential, but it's just like there's something about it that's just like I was made for something more than this, and it's like an itch that you can't scratch, and you just gotta go out and just grind and hustle, and that seems to scratch the itch, so I'll keep going.
Yeah, I think it's just the normal, right? It becomes what life is
Hmm.
if you do this. And it's an alternative lifestyle, for sure.
Yeah.
If you go to a job, it's just clock in, clock out, take your vacation time, whatever. When you're an entrepreneur, it's not just that you have the chance to work all the time, and everybody should set some boundaries, but it's hard to shut your brain off
Hmm.
when you're not working on it. It's hard to not worry about stuff or think about stuff. And I mean, I'm in a business too where, don't get me wrong, like we have a decent living, but I'm not Elon Musk here,
Yeah.
or type of thing. Like I'm grinding it out just as much as people who have jobs are. Uh, my life, my grind just looks a little different than other people's. And I'm sure some people who work jobs would look at what I do and like, that's insane. And I guess I'm probably at the point where I look at some of them and be like, whatever you do is insane too, because I don't know that I could be in that position.
Yeah.
What would you say now is like if you could change one thing to balance things out, to like move things in your favor, would it be just giving yourself more time on the farm? Would it be giving yourself more time off from, let's say, your farm and Crystal Organic? Would it be more income coming into the farm? Is there anything that would just shift the the feeling around the farm, dramatically towards the positive side?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough contender between either just more time or more money, because kind of the way I see it, it's like one gives way to the other. It's like it's either the farm is generating income, which is going to give us some stability that I can devote more time to it, or it's we have more time, which means we can be more productive to then generate more income. And so, um, kind of in the immediate, I would probably say more time, um, just because, yeah, I'm not feeling a money crunch, I'm feeling a time crunch. And so, you know, but when the investment money runs out and rent kicks in and all that, you know, we'll see if the money and the time crunch thing kind of shakes down differently. Um, but I mean, really at this point, yeah, I mean, it's all about time, which it's kind of been the sneaking suspicion that I've had in the back of my mind that's been steadily moving more towards the front. Is it's just um, like there's no way I would have been able to do this living 45 minutes away, and now it's like having the thought of like, is it even possible for me to do this working another job? Um,
What do you think
you
about
know,
that right now? Like, 10 is 100% possible, one is not possible. Where are you falling on that scale?
um, I'd say I'd say it's probably like a 6. Like it's definitely just what. obviously like moving costs money, finances and so on and so forth. Um, so like it would definitely be a little bit of a leap. It's not like, oh, I can go part-time at Crystal Organic tomorrow and it's like, yeah, bills will get paid. Everything like it's like, ooh, I think we could make it work, but it's gonna be super tight. And it might be some, eating a salad every night for dinner because God knows we have enough salad greens. And then like whatever we can't grow, it's just rice and beans from there to get us to that point. Um, but I think um, I'm gonna grind it out this month, and then but I think next month that'll kind of be. And I've already been having those conversations. Like, listen, April is probably going to be the month where if I start to pull back, it's gonna be April. Um, and so hopefully it'll happen right around the time that I'm seeing like, oh yeah, look, we can make a little bit of money, and this will all work out. But it may be like, first two markets were kind of crap, and but if I want to get to the point, like they were only crap because I didn't have enough stuff to take, so on and so forth. So, um, yeah, I'm feeling like we can make it happen. We'll see. I'm
How,
optimistic about it.
well, it's a good place to begin. How does it weigh on you at the startup phase of doing work without really getting paid?
Honestly, I don't really think about it much. I have so much like not pressure put on myself, but I treat it so much like a job. I treat it so much like this is my livelihood right now that I don't even remember the last time I considered the fact that it's like I'm not getting paid to do this.
Hmm.
It's your question actually kind of is taking me back a little bit because I'm trying to think like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, it's for whatever reason, it's just once we got going, it's like, all right, this is our new life. Like, this is what we signed up for, and this is what I'm doing. And yeah, so funny enough, I can't recollect the last time I ever considered like I'm doing this. It was probably on a bad day, like, oh, I've been out here freezing my butt off in the middle of January and for nothing. It's like but yeah, I don't those thoughts don't really come up very often.
That's good for you because I think that is a struggle point for some people. And when we've launched new products like the quick hoops and stuff, I'm paying for that stuff, to get it up and running months in advance. There's work being done, and it's like I'm doing all this. I got money going out the door. Like I need to see some income come back from this because I'm starting to hate these things before I can even sell the first one. So that was always a challenge because
If
it's
I was
one.
spending if I was spending my own money, I would probably feel different. That you saying that does bring up a good point. It's like because I have the security of knowing that I have the investment money to fall back on, and because I've deferred rent until later, that's probably been a big reason why I haven't had to feel that like, oh my God, I'm just like hemorrhaging cash and I'm not making a dime yet, and so on and so forth. So kudos to me for trying to plan ahead a little bit of that.
Absolutely, because I've been there too, where it just feels like money is pouring out, like the hole in the bathtub
Yeah,
is massive, and there's a drip coming in, and it is no sleep, stressful situation. And then inevitably, every business will probably be there at some point where it feels like on a balance sheet or income statement, the world is ending. And unless you've taken some death blows on in terms of how you spent money, it probably isn't. You could probably just try around the horizon, the turn, but just riding that out, it can be intense
yeah,
because sometimes it is just a waiting game. For you, if your market doesn't, like, say you were super stressed out about it, it's like the market doesn't start till April 1st. You can't
yeah,
make it start sooner. You can
yeah,
obsess about it for the next month, but it's not going to do anything. So it's like, well, it starts when it starts. In the meantime, if I want to get sales, I can try and drum up other things. I'm not saying this is your case, but
yeah,
there's that type of thing of realizing like things happen when they're going to happen, and you can stress about them prematurely, and while you wait, and that just adds to the cognitive load, which I think is by far the biggest challenge of entrepreneurship. I think it's finding a successful business model where you get enough customers to pay what you need to pay to cover your costs. and give you a living. And it's balancing the massive mental load that comes with managing that under the umbrella of life, because life
Yeah.
is hitting you with all sorts of bats along the way, and you're trying to hobble along and run a business, and then it's hitting
Mm,
you with arrows, and um, you're just trying to drag it out to the finish line.
yeah.